The human body is a marvel, and we are not the fastest creature on the planet, nor are we the strongest. We are extremely efficient at walking. And so we can trace the trail of the caribou or of whatever it is we're tracking, and they will exhaust themselves before we do. So we are very much, especially our hips and our gait, is very much designed for movement and being in a certain place in gravity. This concept of emotional parts of the body in between flexion and extension dynamics. So for folks who don't necessarily know what flexion is all of the angles of the joints are short. So fetal position, when we're in fetal position, is full flexion, and extension is the opposite. So if you think of your hips, the way your hips move into fetal position is flexion, and into upright standing is extension. What do we do when we are super excited, whether it be football European style or football American style, when somebody scores a goal? Extension. The extension dynamic is involved in ecstasy and feeling good, and negative emotional states are in flexion. And there's a continuum from just a minor negative irritation to of just an uncomfortable thought. The flexor tensor, the tension of the flexor musculature tightens. That's way, like if it's a family member, many moms with kids especially, but for me, any of my family members, I can see my brother walking 100 meters away, and I can tell if he's in a good mood or if he's not in a good mood, because that flexion extension dynamic. And many of the problems with conventional joint restrictions, hips for example, have to deal with shortened flexor muscles. Any thoughts on that?
I agree. There is also this TED Talk video about Superman pose or superpower pose, when you kind of like.
Oh yeah. That's extension. Okay.
Yeah. So it says that you're automatically going to boost your mood if you kind of like do a Superman pose, if you make the surface of your body bigger. Okay. So that's like before, when you were like running away from the predators, you want to make the body look big to kind of give off confidence. Okay?
Yes.
Some kind of like thrill.
Yeah.
You notice a lot with people that a lot of people are hunching over, not just because the phone is down or the computer is down, whatever. It's because how they feel.
A lot of the times, and again, so we're all familiar with the pec, most of us with pec major muscle, but that pec minor muscle, which sits underneath it, is really involved in a lot of that. And I think, yes, that Superman pose is important. And also when doing things like the functional exercises that you do, the tendon organs in the musculature the Golgi tendon organs and there can be this lengthening of this length tension relationships. So when we sit in our body, we have more range of motion, we have a greater range of self-expression. And if my pec minors are tight, I might not be able to open as much as if I'm doing a hanging exercise on a regular basis, etc. And also, you mentioned the appearing larger, which is a big thing. I know as a teenage and early 20s young man, I would do that a lot, puff myself up that way. But also the fear response. The initial fear response is also biologic. And when the tiger roars, it freezes the deer. There's a freezing response that happens, and all of the deer's flexor musculature shortens. But the benefit of that for the deer is that immediately that is the shortest way to load up the extensors. So I'm talking about glutes here. If we're talking about hips, gluteus maximus, gluteus medius, getting those in a position where they can then bolt as fast as they can. And so it is a survival instinct with the fear and the flexion. But if we are in a chronic negative state much of the day, or I'm one of the reasons why I don't work in corporate world anymore is because it was very stressful for me, and all the time just trying to catch up, just trying to get through my emails, and I was in this negative emotional state, in a negative posture. The opening of the musculature, I think, is important.